So Anthropic just announced something pretty scary, and that is that every single output that Claude gives you will now be officially watermarked. And over the past couple of days, a new GitHub repo had a ton of likes, tens of thousands really, and everybody is talking about different ways to remove these watermarks. And so in today's video, I want to cover exactly what these Anthropic AI watermarks really are, why it's so dangerous for every single one of us, but also why it's beneficial. Because, little heads up, I don't like any of this stuff. This is to comply with EU laws, and it's to prevent further AIs into the future to base their opinions and base their research on other AI outputs. It's just to make sure we live in a world where the AI can know that previous stuff was built by AI. But so is there any way to remove this watermark? Because right now it's just on, I believe, Gemini and Anthropic, but eventually it's basically going to be everywhere. And if you don't want anybody else to know that this was generated with AI, how to prevent it? Is that possible? And what exactly do these watermark removers, especially the ones that are going so viral right now, actually do? So let's start breaking this all down. First of all, if you're using AI right now, Claude or any one of those, and it has a watermark on it, nobody in the world will be able to know that it was exactly your work. Maybe a couple of years into the future, they will have some deeper methods for, making sure that every single person can be linked back. We'll talk about that a bit more, about the scary parts about these watermarks. But as of this point, the most important part to understand that it's not more expensive. There are no hidden characters, which is a very important part that needs to be covered. That's literally the biggest misconception about this whole debate. And like I said, it doesn't require any more tokens, doesn't really change your output, at least from a normal person's perspective. The entire text is still exactly the same. And new rules came into the EU August 2nd about AI-generated content having an official label on it. And so even though right now not every single AI is using it, soon enough, if they want to operate within the EU, they will have to do it. So why exactly did they do this? Well, to comply with EU laws. And like I stated earlier in the video, they came up with this algorithm years ago. This is basically a Google study that was done a while back about how it could potentially be done. And right now they're putting it into work to make sure that AI doesn't build on wrong AI, etc. And also essentially because why not? At the end of the day, what is happening in this very difficult piece here? This looks really odd, right? This looks really difficult. The following is what's really happening, but let's first of all quickly read the little text above it to make it make a bit more sense. So this algorithm to watermark was based on Google DeepMind's Nature 2024, how Google can invisibly mark Gemini's text so it can be identified later. When AI writes something, it picks each next word from several equally good options. So if we were to take a sentence like the cat sat on the, there's a ton of different options that could work, right? Mat or floor or couch or rug. We are human beings. And actually an AI really would also have to pick the option here at random normally. But what they've decided to do is add values to every single one of these choice options. And so it basically counts for specific pieces or entire texts, depending on the text. That is basically now like a multiple choice for. And instead of having like freedom, right, instead of having it be really random for whatever word is going to be inserted right there, they use that unused space of it being a random choice to hide a signal. So SynthID runs the candidate word through a tournament bracket like we saw down below, like March Madness, where a secret key decides the winner. Repeat this word for word for word for word, and you get a statistical fingerprint. And anyone with a key can score the text and check. Detection doesn't need the AI model at all. You can actually just do it by following the numbers. And does this hurt the quality? No, because essentially many of these AI outputs have a coin flip element in them. And they tested this apparently on over 20 million real Gemini responses, and thumbs up, thumb down. Ratings barely moved 0.01% to 0.02%, and speed costs are under 1% as well. So yeah, if you're running open source, which is one of the beautiful parts here, there is no watermark. And essentially, a watermark doesn't really do much for you because, like I said before, if we took the cat sat on the, there were 4 different values the AI could choose from. We picked one at random. Let's just say we picked the couch. The AI also picked the couch, it turns out, but it was not random. It had 2 different layers of choices. In this case here, 2 G values. The first G, it came up for the value of 1. And the second G, it came up with the value of 1 yet again. If we look at the value of 1, 2 options remained, mat and couch. Those go on to the next bracket. If we again take the value of 1 being the decided winner, right? It could be 0 or 1. It didn't look at what the words were. It just knew these both are options for the filler. We just pick a value of 1, which turns out to be couch. If we now look back and for G1, we fill in 1. For G2, we fill in 1 again. You can see we end up with the word couch. So a person may look at this and think, oh, it picked couch at random, but essentially it was a calculated move. And what it turns out is that human written text is really pure randomness. The words scoring 1 is 100 out of 200, 50%, right? And with Gemini text, it's 118 out of 200, so it should be 50%, but it isn't. And so what it basically turns out is that any single word proves nothing. Couch scoring 1 is a coin flip, but 118 heads out of 200 flips is roughly a 1 in 500 fluke, and over a full page, it becomes overwhelmingly noticeable. Matter of fact, if we take a look at this right here, right? We turn the watermark on or off. For the majority of people, you really don't notice the difference whatsoever. You don't notice it at all. And actually, if your text is really short, it's like a 24, a 49, even a 100-word piece, there's almost no way to guarantee that this text was generated with AI because it's not large enough to actually see this effect take place. But the longer your text get, the easier it is to spot. And so when we get back to this amazingly very viral watermark remover, you have to ask yourself, what exactly is the watermark that they remove? Well, it says it right here at the start. They say that it takes away invisible Unicode, which just for point of reference is if we read the invisibles right here, like let's say, for example, piece of text, right? There's actually in the midst here, these spaces, let's call it. You'd say they're just spaces, but invisibles actually have tokens in there right there. Soft hyphen, zero width space, word joiner, whatever, all these different tokens that you're not really seeing. And if we were to remove them, right, now it's actually just text. That's something that a remover could do. And that's what people think that this watermark is also doing. But essentially what the real watermark is just changing words in a more predictable manner that the AI can check back. Now, I decided to send a little piece of text here that was generated with Claude to this AI remover, and I scanned it. I just did it. And as you can see, it said the clean file here is byte for byte, exactly the same as the file that I gave it. Now, logically, and that's also one thing I've done right here, the attack matrix, there are a couple of ways to prevent this straight away. Like, first of all, this GitHub repo says it does layer B, which is the statistical token sampling text watermarks. It apparently rewrites plus optional rewrite text. And just to logically think about this, if we know for certain that any piece of text right here, right, the shorter that it is, has a way lower likelihood to be detected as an AI piece of generated content, all we'd have to do is make sure every single one of these pieces are generated in smaller chunks. Now, my Claude here also came up with a system for actually attacking any piece of untouched Claude output, and just by attacking it time and time again, getting to a place where it's actually running as clean. Because as you can see right here, there's 10 different things it did to come out at the end as something clean based on this GitHub of Watermarks Remover. But there's one slight problem. We don't really know fully, to the deepest extent really, how they're actually gonna key this. And so the real only way to prevent right now any single one of your outputs to be able to be detected by Claude is knowing exactly how they generate every single key, or the system that they have for generating it. Does the repo work? So is that the conclusion out of this all? Well, yeah, because essentially what it could do, there's a couple of different options like I just stated, is it could regenerate small chunks to eventually get no detection. Or rather, it could also just send it from a watermarked AI to a non-watermarked AI, where it goes again from keying, so every value, or at least a lot of those values are predictable, to a randomness generator again. Matter of fact, one thing that would also always work really is sending this to a local AI where all it does really is just rewrite a piece of text, because that's literally the output itself is still beautiful and nobody can really know that it was generated with AI by looking at it, but somewhere internally Claude knew how it was generated. And so Claude would also know logically then that it was generated by Claude. Now, essentially, this could be generated with any AI that uses this system, but for right now, Claude. So how exactly does the repo work? Because that's also the final verdict here. It does, but what you think? Well, not necessarily. So it removes this invisible Unicode. That was piece A, right? Bit controls, tag characters, exotic spaces, all this sketchy stuff that may be in there in a text that you don't really even know about. It can remove C2PA content credentials, EXIF. This is like if you have a picture or something like that, to know exactly where the picture came from in some of the details of that file. It could take that all away. The mark on images Claude generates, that one is metadata, and that metadata comes off as well. What it does not do is touch the text watermark itself. It ships a rewrite prompt and leaves the rewriting to another model, which its own doc state plainly. And it cannot prove anything either way, as Anthropic's detection API was announced but not officially shipped, and nobody outside of Anthropic can check the results today. So even though it does make sense, it can help you in a lot of different ways. The official answer, the official removal or anything of that sort is not yet out, as we do not even know exactly how Claude is going to do all this stuff. Now, if you want the cleanest way, it says right there in the fine lining, the honest path to a clean document is hand it to a different model and have it rewrite roughly half the words. Because if you look back at my little test for what exactly killed it, just at rewriting half the words, you're almost already clean. Or if it's a really short piece of text, about 4 cents of tokens per 1,000 words, at which point the sentences are that model's, not Claude's, and you paid for Claude to produce a first draft that you then destroyed. Now again, as of this point, Claude, or Anthropic I should say, has not published its key or detector, so we cannot know when exactly it detects as being generated with Claude. We do not exactly know any key related details. The scores that we talked about here are inside of the watermark remover itself, detect gumbo py. Acts 0.2 and 0.4 are the repo's real scripts on real files. So what that basically showcases is what I've done in 0.2 here and 0.4 is actually go through this GitHub repo and test it against that to see if it actually works. So the conclusion is, yeah, it does on some parts, but on the full part of it, not just quite yet until we get actually more details from Anthropic themselves. Then again, will they be able to build against it? Probably so, because essentially all you have to do is just rewrite with another AI. But if you guys want my little interactive guide, make sure you check out the school. It's going to be linked down below. It's school.com/AI-untapped. As you can see right there, it's a completely free school for any single person that wants to learn more about AI. Yeah, the first link in the description down below. I will post them there every single day. I've missed some, but do not fret. I'll be posting on here every single day from right now forward. I will never miss a day again. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this little update on what's happening right now, because everybody's talking about it. It's a big deal. Now, one thing I should say is the repercussions of this and the future implications, those are the ones I'm mostly afraid about, because as of this point, there could be specific keys for specific AI models, right? But they could go significantly deeper, specifically on longer pieces of text, to have very specific key recognition, where every single person's own text, if it's long enough, I'm talking like a pretty sizable piece, or just within their Claude data over prolonged periods of time for every single Claude user, for example, could actually be found out. Like, as at this point, there's no way to do that, but perhaps inside of Claude in some funny way, they could actually build something of this sort and not let us know. All these reasons are really just more and more reason, let's call it, to use these open source AI models you can use on your computer, or at least have them as a backup in case Claude, ChatGPT, or any one of these starts to just get out of control and take too much of your information. Like right now, if you're a builder, if you're somebody like a founder, or you're just a person excited about AI, like the repercussions of you using this and getting some sort of tracking on you done, still not too crazy, right? But it may just be a couple of weeks, a couple of months, a little bit away before all of a sudden we're too deep into the tracking system and every single thing can be traced back to us, and every single thing you ever type in from that point forward will be linked to you. Every single thing you post, they will know exactly it was you. That's, of course, a bit more scary, but we're not there just quite yet. They're obviously researching it. Just know that this is being researched actively. This whole watermark thing is also a couple of years old already. Like, this whole report was done in 2024, and not just now. It's just that the rules in the EU just now changed, leading Claude to implement it, but this is not like a new system. There's also a ton of research already being done on making sure that every single AI piece of text and output can be linked back to a certain person. But then again, as of this point, it's not deterministic. It's not, they even say themselves, a watermark can only determine that Claude was likely involved. It's not actually officially proven, because essentially, if you just let Claude rewrite something like on a 1% scale, theoretically speaking, it could already find out that it potentially heavily edited this. But if you're unlucky, it could have actually find out that a lot quicker. It's just a lot of fun stuff, a lot of interesting stuff. Nothing to worry about though. New rules. It's kind of funny how this, even if you're not in the EU like me, you still have to comply with all of these. But such is life. Such is how it is. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, that's about it for this little update.